Hey everyone, it's Dom from Square Up. If you don't know me, I, along with my two best friends, have been working on Cardistry for over a decade. And today, I want to talk to you about moves, also known as cuts or card flourishes. Each Cardistry move or card flourish can be broken down into a beginning or opener, a middle, and an end or a closer. So let's talk about each part, go over some mistakes to avoid, and talk about some best practices that you can keep in mind when creating new ideas. I want to start by talking about, in my opinion, the most neglected part of a card flourish, the closer. Let's look at an example. If I do this move and then just carelessly close the packets together towards the end, it loses the gusto it had from earlier in the move. That's why I personally find a lot more cardists should be focusing their time and energy on the closer. I watch a lot of new creations, and usually the ending is where I see people selling themselves short. To me, this feels like a tendency people have where they want to move on and create something new. Going back to the idea of quickly closing moves, this can be useful if done purposefully. In this clip from his video, The Honored One, Dobby shows you how you can end a move quickly without taking away from the other motions of the cut. His setup and simultaneous closure of the packets adds value to the move, instead of a lazy ending that would take away from previous motions and ultimately reduce the quality of the move. The ending can often be the most difficult part to figure out, but the payoff is worth it. If you put in that extra effort, you'll feel more accomplished and can move on to your next idea with no concern that you left anything on the table. Plus, the end of the move is what leaves a good or bad taste in the viewer's mouth, as it's the last thing they viewed. That holds a lot of weight. Aside from closers, I also often see people have trouble with openers. One of the most common issues I see is people reusing openers from previously created moves. It can occasionally be okay if you're not using the same opener for several different moves, but if people notice, they might find your ideas less impressive. If you try differentiating the move after the opener, it can help, but many times recycling an old opener will force you into a similar position and might stifle your creativity. That's why I think it's best to try and start every new move differently. The main portion, or the middle of a move, is usually where most of the action happens. When someone creates a new move, they usually put the most time and effort into this main part because it's when there may be multiple packets of cards involved that the creator of the move is focused on controlling. Any move starts and ends with the whole deck, but the middle part has the most variables at play and can become very complicated. Cardists often think that in order for their move to be impressive, they need to add as many packets as possible. This can be great if done correctly, but it likely won't end with a cohesive move. Just because you can break off a packet from a certain position doesn't mean you should. Make sure you have a reason for those cards to be there and tie them into the other motions happening in the move. I could have easily added another packet to this move, but I didn't because I knew it would look silly and it would bring more issues instead of value to the move. Here's what it would look like if I added that motion. It just doesn't work, and it's better without it. I also want to talk a little bit about utility moves and other concepts like moments, as these have slightly different implications than your everyday packet cut. And if some of these terms are confusing, don't worry, we'll be posting all sorts of beginner cardistry content in the future. Just click that subscribe button. So utility moves are essentially small concepts that can be used in more complex moves and sequences. They're usually short and somewhat simple actions that can be replicated easily. Many times people will create or find a utility move they love and start to implement that into several of their new moves. For me personally, this is my go-to utility move. It's fun to do, and it's unique enough where I can find plenty of different settings where it makes sense. Here's an example. I have two moves that both use the splitting action I showed you, but in two completely different ways. When people create a utility move, they aren't as focused on creating a beginning, a middle, or an end. They're really focused on creating one moment that can be used in other moves. And that brings me to moments. When people create a very short move, they're focused on creating one big moment that sticks out and impresses everyone. Creators often focus all their energy into this one big moment of the move, and then the beginning and ending get completely neglected. But what if there was a way to make these moments even more substantial? Lars Meyrind is one of the most talented cardists out there, and he's found a way to make moments more cohesive and substantial. Most cardists focus on getting into that one moment as quickly and as easily as possible. Lars looks at this moment and thinks, this moment is beautiful, but how can I surround it with even more beauty? Looking at his move Skytrain from his Fontaine feature video, You Can't Make This Stuff Up, it's clear that he didn't just spend time on creating the key moment of the move. He found a clean way to open the move and get into the structure, and after the moment or cool part, he doesn't just close the move by dropping the cards onto the deck. He instead goes into a packet sequence as if it were a two-handed cut and cleanly closes it to end the move. He actually takes the time to create an opener and a closer to surround that moment, which just makes the whole move that much better. Noel Heath is another great example of making his moments matter. Just take a look at his move Stinky. Incredible talent from both Lars and Noel. Definitely go check out their content linked in the description below. Going back to the different parts of a move, I want to end with a simple reminder to treat every part equally. If you don't, you'll risk your ideas feeling unbalanced and potentially cause viewers to lose interest. Put all the effort you can into every part of your moves, and you'll not only start to see more interest in the ideas you put out there, but you'll start to appreciate your creations much more. That's all for now. If you enjoyed this type of content, let us know and be sure to subscribe as we'll be putting out much more like this. Thanks for watching.